Dana Schwartz, and this is Rise or Die, the official companion podcast for Peacock's original series, Those About to Die. On this podcast, I go behind the scenes with the show's cast and creators to learn how they brought their brutal vision of Rome to life.
Gosh, people will freak out.
Rise or Die launches on July 18th. Watch or listen wherever you get your podcasts.
A bloodbath tonight in the rural town of Chinook.
Everyone here is hiding a secret.
4 more victims found scattered.
Some worse than others. I came as fast as I could. I'm Deputy Ruth Vogel. And soon, my quiet life will never be the same.
Realm presents a 30 Ninjas production, Chinook, starring Kelly Marie Tran and Sanaa Lathan. Listen to Chinook wherever you get your podcasts.
How do I contact you?
You can't.
I may need more.
You still don't get it, do you? Closing the eX-Files, separating you and Scully was only the beginning. The truth is still out there, but it's never been more dangerous.
Hello. Whew. And welcome to the eX-Files.
Well, shit.
That's the eX-Files, a buffering rewatch adventure where we are watching and discussing every episode of the eX-Files one by one. Spoiler free. I'll have a lot more to tell you once I've started on the chest and abdomen. I'm Jenny Owen Young's ex-wife of Kristin Russo, and I grew up watching the eX-Files.
And I am Kristin Russo, ex-wife of Jenny Owen Young's, and I've only seen 28 episodes of the show called The eX-Files. Today, we are here, we are back, we are talking about Season 2, Episode 4, Sleepless, an episode about what Jenny's life has been like for the last year and 2 months. 3 months? How long has that baby been here?
15 months of mild hallucinations brought on by sleep deprivation.
Also, Jenny, when you started your intro, it sounded like you were going to say, welcome to the eX-Files. That's the eX-Files to you.
I'm ready to go see Dr. Girardi and get a little snip in the back of my skull. I'll tell you what. Sleepless was written by Howard Gordon, directed by Rob Bowman, and originally aired on October 7th, 1994.
This is the one, according to IMDb, where Mulder is on the manhunt. I don't know why it's the manhunt and not a manhunt. For a Vietnam vet who can project his consciousness into other people's minds to kill them. Mulder and Agent Krychek just kidding, try to uncover the conspiracy behind the killer's powers.
Special Agent LaToya. Oh my God. Producer LaToya Ferguson, who is also a special agent, gives this episode a scary rating of 1.5 out of 5 different Dyssomnias and Parasomnias. Tony Todd adds some spooky cred in general, but this episode is not that, unless it's spooky in the way Mulder is spooky, which of course we all know is just however the episode needs Mulder to be spooky.
LaToya has linked us to Dyssomnias and Parasomnias. Jenny, do you know the difference between a dysomnia and a parasomnia?
I'm ready to learn.
Well, I've skimmed them, so I might get this a little wrong, but basically a dysomnia is a sleep disorder where your sleep is just, you can't fall asleep, or you wake up after sleeping for a little while, your REM cycles aren't great, whatever. Parasomnias are where you actually exhibit behavior of some kind while sleepwalking, there's actions being taken in your sleep. Again,
okay.
I did a real rough skim, so I'm sorry if I got that a little wrong, but that's the general vibe. I also wanted to talk about this note that LaToya put in her production notes about the writing of this episode, Jenny, which is that Howard Gordon was assigned to write an installment of The X-Files without a collaborator. In quotes from Howard, "I had some insecurity in the beginning. I was now on my own and had to investigate all new processes." End quote. He initially wrote a totally different story. He was unhappy with it. And by the time he realized he was unhappy with it, he was 2 weeks away from his script being due. So he stayed awake over 2 consecutive nights. And he was unable to sleep because he was panicking. And he said, "I was so anxious. I figured my career was over. I figured I was done. I had no talent. I was history. Not being able to sleep for 2 nights, I began to think, gee, what if somebody couldn't ever sleep?"
Snip, snip.
Yeah. And this is, of course, Howard Gordon wrote it. But there's also a quote here that says that Chris Carter made an important contribution to the story. Carter said, "An idea I had during season 1 about what makes a perfect soldier." And then Howard married that idea of a super soldier to a sleepless soldier. And voila, here we go. We got Sleepless.
Do you want to just catch up since it's been a minute?
It's been a minute.
Popped an episode in the feed.
This feels like a big deal to me to be returning to the microphone because so Jenny and I are in the middle of 3 work lifts together, not counting the work lifts that we do outside of the buffering space. But we are, as of this taping, about 10 days away from our final book deadline. There is a whole book. It exists, actually. And Jenny, I think it's pretty good, if I do say so myself.
I'm not ready to commit to any sort of definitive statements about quality.
Well, I think it's pretty good, and I'm a pretty big critic, but, we have 10 more days. So we've been in a spin cycle with that because writing a book is hard. We are, as of this taping, 17 days away from the start of Buffy PROM, which is a, pretty massive undertaking and our biggest event that we ever have. And then, there's the podcast. And only 3.5 weeks ago, I lost my dad. My dad had dementia. He was diagnosed back in early 2021, and he went into hospice. And hospice can mean a lot of things, but I think he was ready to go because he was only in hospice for 6 days. And so I'm moving through all of that. And I say I'm moving through all of that because, of course, it was my dad. But we are also moving through that. If you don't know, Jenny and I have been in each other's lives for a really long time. And 9 of those years we spent in partnership with each other. And so, Jenny, I know you had a very special relationship with my dad. And it's just been a very hard time to be doing anything, let alone juggling all of these buffering balls, if I do say so myself.
I would say I'd vote this set of circumstances off the island, given the option.
Yeah, and I started by saying being on the mic feels very significant, and then gave you this list of things that we're doing. And I say being on the mic feels significant because picking up the book work again, picking up the prom work again, those felt like lifts that were more manageable. But sitting back down with the X-Files and really feeling like I could have my head here in the game with you all really felt like the biggest lift in the circumstances given. And so I am very happy to be talking into this microphone, and I do hope that you all listening give us a small measure of grace. Who knows what kind of episode this one will be, but at the very least, we're here and we're talking into the mics, and no one can say we're not.
That's 100% true.
Also, while we're here and talking about life, I just want to thank so many of you who reached out. This community is so powerful for so many reasons and in so many ways. And this was my first experience of losing a parent. But because we have this massive community of folks, I had so many people reach out to me. Even when my dad had just gone into hospice, I had one of our listeners, I'm sure more than one, but one of our listeners is a death doula, literally does the work of a doula, like you're all used to hearing about doulas with birth, but does that work for folks in death. And so, from people who've lost parents to to people who our podcast has helped get through the loss of their loved ones, to someone who is a death doula, to just, to like the most wonderful, hilarious emails that just are always there to lift our spirits. It has really been a wonderful landing pad to have. And I know that so many of you who are listening and have been listeners for a long time have had that experience of just having this place to come to and find comfort. And it's been really special to find that myself in the last couple of weeks. So thank you all for that.
Sure. People are nice and sending messages and stuff. But what would you say helped more, that or the ceaseless barrage of photos of my child that I have been sending your way?
Jenny has a lot of ways of taking care of me, and I'm used to a lot of them, but I have to say, Jenny, that you even pulled some new tricks out of your bag to make sure that I was okay. When I get a text in the middle of the day with no warning and there's no work on the calendar and it's just Jenny saying, "Hi, I'm just checking in on you. How are you doing?" Like, that's a pretty big deal. You and your child and your whole family have been very cool, actually. So
I contain multitudes. And, I feel like I should also update the listenership with the developments in my life, which are just that Aldrich is walking. Aldrich is sticking out his tongue. Aldrich is hugging. Aldrich has a little Red Sox cap that he now will try to put on his own head.
I didn't even know that. You saved that one for a podcast reveal.
Yeah. Yes.
I believe that Aldrich is doing all of those things for me specifically, actually.
That might actually be true. I was really, really tired. I was laying on the couch earlier, and Jess and our friend Will was over, and they were mostly palling around with Aldrich while I was like taking a little rest. And then Aldrich, like after a while of us not playing or anything, he like just toddled over to me and was just like, meaning that he wanted me to like pick him up onto the couch, and he just like laid there and cuddled with me.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's pretty messed up over here.
Yeah, it really is. Listen, that baby is freaking cute. I'm just going to go ahead and say it.
He's a cool guy.
Yeah, he is. He is a cool guy. I mean, he lives with at least one cool guy, so he knows.
Me or Frank?
Well, I mean, I meant you, but no offense meant to Frank. All right, so here we are.
Okay, we're caught up now.
I mean, as much as we can be caught up, we are caught up, I believe.
Within reason, before we dive into this episode, before we start getting into the details, I just want to say, drink whenever you hear exotic flute.
Oh God damn it.
It's really a lot.
It really
This
is.
might be the most like gratuitous deployment of exotic flute that I can recall encountering.
I don't know, Jenny. It's been a long time since we watched Inca Mummy Girl, so
oh my goodness.
We might want to note by note count how much offensively racist pan flute goes into 90s episodes of television and put those as a competition. Except we won't, because I don't want to count it.
Yeah.
Very, very. And, LaToya wrote a little bit about it, too, in her production notes. And, like we hear the pan flute a lot when we see The Preacher, when we see Cole, And so it's like not only when we see the Vietnamese, like, dream folk, which we'll talk about, but this is very much here because we are talking about Vietnam, and it is not cool. No, thank you.
Have we talked about Vietnam already on the podcast?
I'm like, ever in our lives? No, I don't think we have. No, but you mentioned that this is something deeply on Chris Carter's mind. There are a lot of.
I mean, I think it's on the American mind in the 90s.
Yeah.
Because enough distance had been obtained so that there could be like, well, this is in hindsight now. So it can be, I don't know, assessed more readily or more objectively.
Right.
And also, you've got those intervening, 24 years, right?
The most random number of years, everyone. Why 24? But okay.
Why not 25? That's reunion pay dirt, as everyone knows.
Exactly.
And the number 23 carries a certain intensity
for you,
as we all know,
for you and your
from the
household.
Jim Carrey film, The Number 23. But I think that like that's enough time for like the long-term effects of something,
right,
to really have time to cook, marinate, whatever, however you want to, whatever culinary metaphor you want to.
Yeah,
go
and
for.
I mean that's sort of the distance that we have from this episode. You know what I mean? Like when I remember, and I've said this on podcast past, but it will forever blow my mind. When I was covering My So-Called Life with Joanna Robinson, one of the listeners said, you know how what we thought about when we thought about the 60s in high school is what high schoolers now think about when they think about the 90s.
That's fake and disgusting.
It's disgusting.
And I thank you to never say it again.
It's hideous, cruel, and disgusting. But it is a particular measure of time. And we are, as we know, thinking about the 90s a lot right now since it's our whole lives, Jenny. But we're not the only ones. So
we'll see moving forward that it's weighing on some hearts and brains in future episodes.
What are your thoughts? Big thoughts on this episode apart from striking all of the pan flute, please and thank you.
I wish there was a little more Scully.
Scully, get that baby out.
Let's go. Happy to see Krychek. That's Nicholas Leah. He's back. He was in the episode Gender Bender as Michael, who was about to get slurped. He was about to get killed.
Right.
When an interruption occurred. Tony Todd is so great. So great. I've never seen Candyman. And now I'm too perhaps scared. Like if I was not scared enough before, just knowing the general concept, I'm afraid of what Tony Todd can do, and I know about like the bees and stuff, and
Tony Todd, I feel like it's an important assignment to watch both Candyman 1992 and the 2021 version for so many reasons. I mean, it's a classic horror film, but also the racial commentary in both the 1992 telling and then, of course, in the hands of Nia DaCosta and Jordan Peele, it's pretty epic, and I think important and wonderful. And you should, when you feel ready, they'll be there for you. And Tony Todd is amazing. And I, not to get too deep into it too soon on, but we've already talked about the pan flute, and I messaged Max specifically after I first watched this episode because I was like, so Candyman is 1992. We're in 1994, and this character, this black character. Now there are two big characters in this episode who are both black, Mr. X, who we'll talk about, and Cole. But the character of Cole, the character of the preacher, is like on the one hand written as a character who is sort of atoning for his own sins, in hard quotes, and the sins of all of those who were in this unit, but also is a character who is just killing people. And like this image of a large black man who is at the helm of killing people 2 years after being also the Candyman. And just was sort of like really chewing on that kind of imagery. And like, does it really matter if at the end of the day, this character had this nuanced and complex, perhaps, story inside of this universe? Or are folks watching this and connecting this image of a black man with violence and how do those things, thread together? And so Mac actually did a deeper watch of this episode. And as we talk, there'll be a couple of points that will pull in. But I do think it's important to note that, choosing to make this character a black man is a specific choice, both for his motivations and also for how this episode ends. But we will get there. We will talk about it when we get there. All that to say, I agree with you, Tony Todd, kicking all kinds of ass. You know who the other actor in this that I think kicks all kinds of ass is John Grease, or I think is that how you say his name? Gries. He plays Salvatore Matola towards the end. I love this guy. I knew him from White Lotus, and then was reminded in LaToya's notes that he also was fucking Roger Linus in Lost. And I was like, oh my God, right. I know him from that too.
Oh, yeah.
He's an incredible performer. I've loved him in everything I've seen him in. And I thought he was fucking fantastic as this character in this episode.
Yeah, he really crushes.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say I enjoyed parts of this episode. I think what I enjoy the most is some of the like artistic shots that they do because they can't have Scully and Mulder together. I thought, you know what? Give credit where credit is due. There's like a scene where it looks like Scully is wearing bright blue sunglasses, but it's just the reflection of her computer screen. There's just some like special
Girl, you need that
happening.
anti-reflective coating on there.
Maybe like me, Scully actually is just wearing blue light glasses.
Man, those bangs have got to grow out. We got to do something about those bangs.
I have at least 3 notes about Mulder's fucking hair in this episode. I'm not going to call them out as we go, but just like the man needs to get it together. Use just a little bit of product, sir. You look like a duckling.
Easter has come and gone, young man. Don't be a fuzzy little chick.
Oh, all right. Well,
okay. We open with some pretty wild, grainy bird's eye view footage of New York, so we know we're in New York, which I love. Dr. Saul Grissom is sleeping on his couch in some really nice PJs that gave me PJ envy. He wakes to the smell and then sight of smoke and fire at his door. He goes to grab a fire extinguisher, and let me tell you what he's got in his closet, Kristin. 1 fire extinguisher, 1 wide brim hat, and 1 tennis ball.
1 tennis ball for his shoulder. He's probably got a bad shoulder. So you got to roll it up and down the wall on that tennis ball. Wow.
So he manages to call 911. Firefighters arrive and they're like, looks like we've got a prank call on our hands because there's no smoke. The door's not hot. The knob's not warm. They bust in. Grissom's dead on the floor. But the only sign of any kind of fire-related activity is his discharged fire extinguisher.
Yeah. Also notable is that we see Tony Todd going down the stairs as the firefighters are going up the stairs.
That's right, with a very conspicuous scar at the base of his neck. And he's wearing military fatigues.
I'll tell you what, Jenny, I fucking love a neck scar. Takes me back to the days of the television show Angel and when Wesley had that hot neck scar. Give me a neck scar.
That was a good scar.
Yeah, I mean, I've never met a neck scar that I haven't liked. I'll tell you what. They're all pretty sexy.
Speaking of sexy, what do you think of Mulder in his little jeans and his little faded red tee and his white Nikes?
Kid you not, Jenny, I just was inhaling to say, speaking of sexy, let's talk about Mulder's blue jeans.
Incredible.
I love them. I love his outfit. I love his whole outfit, but mostly his blue jeans. His apartment, I always try to get as much of his apartment in as I can, and there's never enough time. But he is in his apartment, and underneath his apartment, his house, I guess it's an apartment, right?
It's an apartment.
There's a paper pushed under his door. It almost looks like Rupert Giles got a hold of this fucking newspaper, except it's a black marker instead of a red one. Dr. Grissom's death is circled, and a cassette tape falls out of the paper.
Oh my God, a teeny tiny cassette.
Oh, is it a teeny tiny cassette?
It's a mini cassette.
Oh my God. Mulder pops this mini cassette in, and this was one of the like little directorial or editor or whatever choices that I loved, where the 911 call that Grissom made is playing back, and as the call is playing back, we fade to Daddy's office.
Mulder has put on a suit to impress Skinner and is playing him this cassette. And he's like, and the article makes no mention of fire. And Skinner says, yes, Agent Mulder, I can read. Dad.
Oh, God. Daddy says he's going to look into it. And in the meantime, Mulder needs to transcribe his tape and be a good boy.
Back to the transcription grind. Mulder hears the phrase stupid bimbo and is immediately like, let me roll that back.
How are they
I need more details.
How are they still recording at this strip club or wherever? It's been like so maybe it just feels like a long time since we've been gone for a month, but because of our break, I feel like Scully has been pregnant for 120 years. Mulder's been transcribing about bimbos and different kinds of lap dances for as long as I can recall.
Yep.
Jenny, I didn't do a lot of detail work in this episode, but one detail that I did rewind the tape for on my watch is that at Mulder's desk, I wrote, listen, I love that he loves his sister, and I also appreciate trauma and all of that. But Jenny, he has 4 more. We know he has a framed photo. He has 4 more photos of him and his sister on the side of his desk, and I just feel like perhaps more talk therapy, perhaps more processing needs to happen. It's a lot.
You're kind of making me think of. Do you know the Instagram account Siblings or Dating?
No, my God, no.
You might want to check that out, and Mulder might want to just get it together.
Yeah, great. All right, enter Krychek. I'm just going to do like the very, very quick rundown of my roller coaster ride in this episode, which was Krychek. Ooh, I love this Krychek dynamic. I am so excited for this Krychek dynamic. Oh no, Krychek is bad and is no longer in the dynamic I had hoped Krychek would be in. I was like so sad at the end of this episode because I fucking love the jealousy that Scully has. I love it. I want
my
more
favorite
of it.
thing about Krychek is how jealous he's making Scully.
Oh, it's so
and
good.
She's trying to be cool, but she is failing.
Yeah.
Krychek opened the case technically before Mulder, so oopsie daisy, they're assigned to it together. I love that he's like, did you know about the spent fire extinguisher? Grissom's prints were all over it. The man lived alone. His closet is full of all kinds of nonsense. Who else's prints were you expecting?
Can I ask you a big question about the Krychek of it all? Because I've been wondering on it after this most recent watch, which is that like Krychek is like it is true that Krychek is assigned to the case with Mulder, right? Like Skinner would have to have approved that and know that as his superior, but we know by the end that Krychek is working with whatever the smoking man, who LaToya noted in one of the transcripts that she found was not noted as the smoking man, but as cancer man, which is really...
Yes, that's what the show calls him.
Okay. I just am wondering about the Skinner of it all, because it seemed like, was Skinner going to approve Mulder on this case or wasn't he? I couldn't figure out how Skinner slotted in here, because I don't believe that Skinner knows that Krychek is working with the smoking man.
No, I mean, Skinner just gave Mulder the green light, but Krychek was ahead of him in line. Krychek might report to a different superior.
Okay. So Skinner, at least for our knowledge, is just saying, yeah, go ahead, Mulder, and doesn't have to associate with Krychek at all. Okay.
Mulder's like, no offense, but I work alone. But there's a huge asterisk next to that, which says... Except when I work with my soulmate, a petite redhead who is currently teaching the fine art of autopsy at the FBI Academy.
I write already in the first scene between these two that they probably want to kiss.
Well, before they can kiss, Mulder's going to play a little prank and tell Alex to go get a car from the motor pool. Love it. While he fucks off on his own.
At Quantico, Jenny, we learn that Mulder is still using the code name George Hale for his own enjoyment at this point. I mean,
yeah, he's just having fun with it. He's like, hey, babe, can you just do an autopsy for me real quick? I'll DoorDash it to you.
Scully's entire job at Quantico is simply teaching people how to autopsy. It's all she does.
Yeah.
It's like she's really just like dragging me for ever questioning her. So we go to the Grissom sleep disorder clinic. I get all kinds of excited because, as you know by now, I am obsessed with Nightmare on Elm Street. So I will take a sleep disorder clinic and a conversation on what we do in our dreams any day of the week. I refer to the lady who takes Mulder on the tour, the creepy as fuck lady. I don't know if you got those vibes from her, but she creeped me out. And maybe if you work at a sleep disorder clinic and you just watch people sleep on televisions all day long, I will just get a creep. I don't mean any judgment to you if that's what you do. It's important work, but I don't know if that's what gave me the creepy vibe or if this lady just was actually creepy. She tells Mulder that Grissom occasionally had insomnia, but was never delusional, and then gets into the really important stuff, which is what they're doing to help people with sleep disorders, which is a bunch of science stuff that Mulder intakes and says, so it's possible to alter someone's dreams. In theory, she says, yes. I write in my notes, sleep is weird. Don't you think sleeping is so weird?
Yeah, I think dreaming is also super weird.
It's just like, what? I think all of this is creepy because
Kristen's ready for the snip.
I'm personally terrified. Yeah, I just think it's weird. I think it's weird that we dream. I think it's weird that we don't know more about it. It just, where do we go? Isn't that a lyric by like Billie Eilish or something?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it? Fucking nailed it. Genius. Jenny, do you have any contenders for weirdest dream you've ever had?
Most of the dreams that I have that I remember are anxiety dreams where I'm like trying to play a show. And, either I'm like in the green room, which is actually a tree house, and I'm like trying to get dressed to go on stage, but every time I put a shirt on, my pants change color, and then I can't wear that, so I keep changing, but then the colors keep changing. Or a band that's playing earlier has volunteered to like let my band borrow their amps and drum kit, but then they've already loaded out by the time it's time for us to play.
God.
Or, there are just like various administrative tasks that have to be completed before stage time, and I'm just like doing them forever. So yeah, not a ton of weirdness, just a lot of like very boring, frustrating stuff. You?
I mean, just last night, actually, I had a dream just like that, but it was about prom. It was like everything that I was supposed to have done, I hadn't done, and it was chaos. But I've also had like, when I was in content warning for scary dreams, when I was in middle school and maybe beginning of high school, I used to have dreams all the time about this man who was totally bald and like not wearing any clothes, but not also like not in, like it was like a Ken doll kind of a vibe. And he had like powder all over his body. Like, he was very like powdery, and he would just be like, as soon as I saw him, I was terrified, and he would like come into my dreams repeatedly. And it was very scary, and I was very, very fucked up by it. And there was one time, Jenny, when I got off the bus after middle school, and there was a man sitting in a car that was like at the corner. It was probably just a man turning or whatever, but I swear to you that it was that man from my dreams, and I ran all the way home, and I try not to think about it too much, so we can just go right along into the next scene. Sorry, everyone.
I don't care for that.
No.
Let's run away.
Yeah. Let's run away to Scully casually weighing organs, which is a great look for Scully.
We love to see it, and she's like, she just can't wait to get to other parts of the body with other organs. She's really having a blast. She's like, you gotta come see this. And he's like, I can make it there in 2 hours. And I go to Google Maps, and it is over 5 hours from Stamford, Connecticut to Quantico. Just FYI.
Lead-footed Mulder, as they call him.
They do. Krychek has at this point caught up with him, sent Mulder's cab away, and is like, I'm going with you. Meh.
Oh my God.
So Scully is pretty put off that Mulder brought another date to this autopsy.
She reacted exactly the same way when Mulder's ex-girlfriend showed up. There is no difference in her behavior. She doesn't even shake his hand. She like brushes by him. She's not playing it cool at all. When Krychek is like feeling a little like, ooh, a dead body. I love that Mulder and Scully like roll their eyes together. They get their moment of bonding in.
Yeah. And she's like, notice the pugilistic attitude of the corpse. And I'm like, oh, that's what is meant by the gloves of the pugilist, which is a special item that you can obtain in Skyrim after you defeat a particular guy who's down in the rat ways in Riften.
So what does pugilistic mean? Fightin' stance?
Let me get the proper definition. Wanting to fight or to hit someone. For reference, everyone, I just held my fists up and waggled them in my
She gave
screen.
a real why I oughta pose.
Yeah. Put them up. You don't have to take my word for it. Let's listen to Scully put this in her own words.
Notice the pugilistic attitude of the corpse. This condition generally occurs several hours after death. It's caused by a coagulation of muscle proteins when the body is exposed to extremely high temperatures.
Like fire?
This degree of limb flexion is observed exclusively in burn-related victims.
There was no fire.
And no epidermal burns to indicate as much. But when I opened up the skull, I found extradural hemorrhages, which can only be caused by intense heat. Somehow, this man suffered all of the secondary, but none of the primary physiological responses to having been in a fire.
Any theories?
I can't even begin to explain what could have caused something like this. I mean, it's almost as if...
What?
As if his body believed that it was burning.
Well.
Just had to send her to Quantico to believe, you know? That was the missing secret ingredient.
Yeah, is it easier for Scully to believe when she is apart from Mulder? She's like, when you have a crush and you're like, I'm going to get into the stuff that I'm not interested in whatsoever to feel closer to this person.
Yeah, and then with the addition of Krychek, who like allegedly is like believing all of his spooky shit. Scully's like, wait, I believe. I saw an alien just the other day.
Yeah. I saw a tiny little baby alien.
Okay, so in Brooklyn, we go to Willig's place. So Willig and the preacher and then later Sal are the last three living members of this 13-man squad that all had this operation that kept them awake forever. So
he's watching some classic insomnia television. This is how you know this man hasn't slept in 24 years. He's watching QVC and he's like, this is fine. For the younger people in our listenership, didn't used to be that you could watch quality television programming 24/7 or on demand.
No, sometimes the television would just turn into a little rainbow and that was it for your whole channel. Went to sleep for the night. Good night.
You'd see a black and white American flag waving and you would hear like the national anthem or whatever. And then the channel would just end until the next day.
Can you even imagine? Now nothing ends.
Oh my God, that's more upsetting than the last thing we scurried away from in this conversation. Scurry on, Kristin, please.
So this scene takes a really horrific turn. But I will say that I loved the start of this scene. I just thought, and I don't make television in any way, shape, or form, so I don't have all of the words to often discuss things like this. But I just thought it was really powerful the way that they set it up and they like staged it. And you could tell that he was so happy to see, that Willig is so happy to see the preacher. They're like immediately that he's not taking the bait. The preacher's not taking the bait to like have a beer. Like, I'm here to talk and I'm here to talk about the real shit. And I just thought, you know, there's just a few lines of dialogue here. And I felt like the tension in the room, which is a feat. Good job. Then we don't really know exactly what's happening at this point, but what is happening is that the preacher is using his ability to have Willig see all of these victims from Vietnam, from when they were over there, who then all have their own guns and turn them on Willig and shoot him. This is a horrible scene. And Jenny, you mentioned this off mic, that it's sort of like we see Vietnamese people for how long are they on screen? 10 seconds, 20 seconds, and the whole episode and we see them in an atrocious way, and it is just a, you know, really a plot device at the end of the day. It's very upsetting. I also, just in a larger like moralistic way, had some confusion about, I really got the preacher going for what's his face at the end, the other doctor,
Girardi.
I really understood, like, that made so much sense to me. These were the people that performed this surgery on him. But since the preacher also had stayed awake for 24 years and, to his, like, using his own words at the end of the episode, is talking about how horrible it was and how out of control it was, I found it confusing that they would have written in that the preacher would kill Willig in this manner. It just seemed like, if we are to believe that the preacher understands what his companion soldiers went through, that maybe freeing them from this fucking prison of being awake for 24 years makes sense. But I just didn't necessarily vibe with the like sort of torturistic elements and that, you know, like that he would give them a horrific death. I
feel like, based on what we get from him, that he is more concerned with justice and righteousness. And the atrocities that were carried out by this squad of AWOL soldiers can't even be fathomed.
Right. Yeah.
And to release Willig from life is like a mercy in his eyes, but also Willig has done terrible things, as they all have.
Yeah. So turns out there were no guns. This was just the preacher making that bridge between the dream world and the waking world. But Willig dies, and his autopsy reveals that there are like 43 traumas inside of his body with no external trauma outside of his body. And the autopsy guy knew exactly the line we needed, because he said if he didn't know otherwise, he would swear they were gunshot wounds.
Thank you, medical examiner, for spelling it out.
Hi, I'm Dana Schwartz, and this is Rise or Die, the official companion podcast for Peacock's original series, Those About to Die. On this podcast, I go behind the scenes with the show's cast and creators to learn how they brought their brutal vision of Rome to life. I talked to acclaimed director and executive producer Roland Emmerich.
When I saw the first race, I was like giddy.
Actor Ewan Ryan.
For an actor, that's a dream. Although you do get a lot of sand in your sandals.
And so many more.
You helped summon those ghosts back onto that stage.
Every day when I went to set, I was giggling about like what I saw.
I think it's going to be a breathtaking thing.
Gosh, people will freak out.
Rise or Die launches on July 18th. Watch or listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Finding a new podcast to listen to is easy. Finding a good new podcast, that's a little tougher. So let me recommend one. It's called Something You Should Know. If you like fascinating information you can use in your life from some of the top experts in the world, you're going to like Something You Should Know. I'm the host, Mike Carruthers, and recently we've covered topics like the benefits of laughing, the science of dreaming, where your deep desires come from, even how to make the perfect burger. We produce 3 episodes a week, and each episode is packed with rock-solid intel that will make your life better. And we have a lot of fun doing it. Something You Should Know has been ranked on the Apple Podcast charts every day for over 7 years. A lot of people like this podcast, and you will too. Listen to Something You Should Know wherever you get your podcasts. Look for the bright yellow light bulb on the blue background. It's Something You Should Know.
It's pretty clear to everyone by now that social media has changed everything from the way we live to how we discuss politics and what we think we know about the world around us. Which begs the question, who's in charge here? Hi, I'm Jon Favreau, former Obama speechwriter turned chronically online host of Offline with Jon Favreau. Join me every week just outside your social media-fueled echo chamber for a smarter, lighter conversation about the real-time changes and real-world effects of social media and the internet on all of our lives. Check out Offline with Jon Favreau every Sunday wherever you get your podcasts.
They discover that Willig was a Marine and did basic training at Paris Island, where Grissom was stationed. They're like, oh, the plot thickens. They get the name of the only other survivor from that squad. It's Augustus Cole. They go to talk to Cole, who's been in isolation because he was interfering with the sleep patterns of other patients. Mulder's like, excuse me? How? How would he disrupt their sleep? And the doctor's like, anyway.
No answer there.
I'm just going to very clearly ignore your question.
Opens the door. Okay, you want to talk to him? Here he is. The bed is perfectly made. Love that, like, Cole, before signing himself out of the hospital, like, made his bed so nicely. And at the front desk, the doctor is like, how did you let him go? And the woman at the desk is like, you literally came up here and signed the order yourself. Your signature is right here. And I was the person standing here. So we are to believe that Cole used his ability to have the doctor go sign him out, right?
Oh, yeah.
Why did it take him that long? Or maybe it was just because it was an anniversary. Whatever. We won't ask him questions.
Yeah. Reunion pay dirt. Just then, Mulder gets an incoming call from X. And he's like, let's meet. But if anyone follows you, you can fuck right off.
Okay, so a couple of things, Jenny. X, or Mr. X, is played by Stephen Williams, in LaToya's words, who has been in literally everything. I started to scroll down because I know that I know him from specific things, but I realized that if I scrolled down too far accidentally, I would see how many episodes of the X-Files he was in, and I had to protect myself at all costs. But he's been in a lot. 2 things about Mr. X. 1, this episode's production, this is a quote in LaToya's notes, this episode's production included an alternative version of the scene where Mulder has a clandestine meeting with X, in which that character was played by actress Natalia Nogulik rather than Stephen Williams. Though X was originally envisioned as a woman, the decision changed when James Wong and others were watching the dailies from the episode's shoot. After Williams was selected for the part, reshoots had to take place. Glenn Morgan said, we went back and shot Stephen Williams and inserted the footage. So David Duchovny shot these scenes with X as a woman, but then, isn't that wild?
What?
I know. And then the other Mr. X scene note that I want to pull in from LaToya is that she says, Mr. X basically spends his whole scene with Mulder saying, unlike Deep Throat, I am not your daddy. And then she has 1, 2, 3 exchanges. Who are you? Who I am is irrelevant because he's not your daddy, Mulder. You think Cole's behind what's happening now? I'm not here to do your thinking, Agent Mulder, because he is not your daddy, Mulder. And the man we both knew paid for that information with his life, a sacrifice I'm not willing to make. Because he is not your daddy, Mulder. Thank you, LaToya.
Yeah. I can't believe that.
that it was a woman who was cast first. I know. Fucking amazing. Wild.
Don't worry. X has brought along a little envelope.
We love a little
with Mulder's name
here.
on it. So many fire lines. I'm not here to do your thinking. The truth is still out there, but it's never been more dangerous.
Yes, the clip. That's the clip we started with, because how could we not?
Yeah.
He tells him that there's one more guy. There's always one more guy. And it's always a guy named Sal, you know? Salvatore Matola, still out there. And he also explains the specifics to Mulder in this scene, right? He says that this was not about sleep deprivation. It was about sleep eradication. That they were lab rats with the highest kill ratio in the Marine Corps. The 13-man squad killed over 4,000 people over there. So we get some data that is horrifying. And Mulder takes his little folder and he hides it from Krychek because trust no one.
Under his little car mat.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so somebody matching Cole's description was stealing stuff from a pharmacy, which has led Mulder and Krychek to this apartment building where, two officers actually shot each other. Two officers who were probably trying to apprehend Cole shot each other. I wonder why.
One moment, because it is now Cole, a black man completely wronged by the government, has the power to manifest dreams and chooses this moment when two cops are coming for him to manifest whatever dream he manifested to make them shoot each other. I like this plot point in this episode. I think it is the one small thing that the character of Cole is given that has some weight in the right direction. All right. Cole is like suctioned like one of those Garfield toys to the back of a windshield on the side of the building. And we cut to Scully's diary. That's my location for the next scene.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
She gives us all the data we need about the pills. If you don't sleep, you don't produce serotonin, which is pretty important. So these folks who have not slept in 24 years have to take serotonin in order to, not completely hallucinate and probably die. Jenny, Mulder and Scully have a phone conversation about this data and more.
They are in love, Kristin.
They are in love. I write, they basically just had phone sex by the end of this scene.
Yeah, this phone conversation is none of our business.
Truly, I am on the verge of giving them significant eye contact jingles. They
Through
can't
the
see
phone.
Through the fucking phone. Are you suggesting that Cole killed those people with telepathic images? Scully says, wanting to believe it now that Krychek is fucking somewhere right near him. Scully is like, you should still work up your profile and get ahead of the next move. And then here's Krychek and says, sounds like your new partner is working out. Mulder says he's a lot more open to extreme possibilities and Scully interjects, than I was. He says that I assumed he would be. And then they keep flirting and, phone sex is had by all.
Yeah. Yep. Then we go to 2J's Cafe. I want to eat pancakes here.
Yeah, same.
You know that thing where you're bussing a table and your first question for the men in suits who just came through the door is, are you going to shoot me? Are you going to kill me? Sal, play it cool.
But also he knows what's up. Like he has read about the other two guys and he tells Mulder and Krychek that he figured that they were finally just killing all of the rest of them off, which seems like a fair assumption, honestly. We get some intel from Sal when they sit down and talk to him. They said it would be like living 2 lifetimes. And at first it was, but then, clearly no one's sleeping. Things are not going to go well if people aren't sleeping, even with their serotonin pills. He explains that the squadron stopped taking orders at some point, and the whole squadron, all 13 of them, went AWOL. And he says they just made up missions until it didn't matter who they were killing. Farmers, women, kids. And he tells us a little bit about the preacher, and that he was always reading from his Bible and saying that they'd have to pay for what they were doing. It's also when we learn that there's another doctor, Dr. Girardi. My sister used to call my dad Yo-Yo Girardi. I'm not sure why. I think there's a baseball player maybe whose last name is Girardi. Does that sound familiar to you?
It does not, but that doesn't mean that you're not right.
There's a guy named Joe Girardi who's a baseball player and I don't know.
It's a short leap from Joe to Yo-Yo.
Well, we called my dad Yo-Yo. That's a whole other thing. Anyway, we're on the speaking of my dad, we're on the Long Island Expressway. And
Krychek is like, why do you think Cole is going after Girardi? Krychek, haven't you been watching the episode?
Seriously.
What do you mean, why?
They find out that Girardi from Scully is going to Grissom's funeral. And so she sends a photo of Girardi to Bronx Station so that Mulder and Krychek can get the photo and find him and intercept him.
However, Mulder is intercepted by some hallucinations and also some more flutes.
Oh my God, the fucking flutes.
They're just everywhere.
They really are. Even at the Bronx Station. So Krychek and Mulder are watching this is out of many reasons why I could never be an FBI agent. This is one of them. I don't understand how anyone is seeing anything. There's too many people, but they are watching for Girardi, and Mulder sees Girardi, approaches Girardi, and as he's approaching Girardi, he sees Cole behind him. He sees Cole pull a gun. He screams, "Federal agent, everybody down." We see Cole shoot Girardi and Mulder, who drops. And then we learn that all of this was a manifestation, or whatever you want to call it, by Cole. Cole used his bridge powers to make Mulder see all of that happen.
I'm confused because...
Oh no, a question.
When I was watching this, I was like, wait, but why didn't Mulder die then? Why isn't Mulder's body riddled with internal hemorrhages with no external damage? Because the two police officers that Cole encountered died.
And Willig.
Well, Willig, he is part of Cole's quest. The officers are incidental, and so is Mulder.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe Mulder only got like struck in the shoulder or something, so he's like not dead. But if you did a little X-ray on his shoulder, you would see like where the bullet hit. But I when I first watched this episode, I was like, well, that's it for Mulder. I don't know how they're going to keep this show going. Yeah, I don't know. The answer that I have more often than not. So he has the train station guys looking through the tapes for something, and Krychek pulls Mulder aside and is like, "We both know I'm covering for you. What the fuck is going on?" And then Krychek, girl, this is when I should have known as a viewer that Krychek was up to no good, because he literally reads every poster he's ever read in Mulder's office. He's like, "I just want to know the truth. I just want to believe." Like, he's just like, fully saying every one-liner that Mulder has ever said. But Mulder tells him his theory, and Krychek pretends to believe him, but we all think Krychek is believing him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Krychek makes a very cool virtual reality joke.
Yeah, Krychek's so cool. Cool with a K. The guys watching the tape actually find something, though. They see that there's this big, like, cart container thing that was not in the footage minutes before.
And that's where Cole and Girardi are. Girardi is trying to reason with Cole and deflect to no avail. And Cole is just doing his thing. Girardi is surrounded by soldiers. Preacher is like, eye for an eye, to the max.
Mm-hmm.
Mulder and Krychek arrive on the scene just in time to hear Girardi scream. Their flashlights are in full effect.
Yo, these flashlights are huge.
They're really big. Do you think it's because there are two boys now?
Two boys. Get rid of those girly flashlights. We've got 2 men on the scene.
Yeah. The flashlights that Mulder and Scully use are like Virginia Slims by comparison. And what should the beam of a flashlight catch on but Girardi's glasses?
I write in my
cracked.
notes. I write in my notes, Jenny. How will he see without his glasses?
Then they find Girardi, who is still alive.
Yeah.
Mulder... I don't know why. Maybe Cole's powers are dwindling, and that's why Mulder and Girardi are still alive.
Yeah, I bet. And there's like no reason. What's weird is why did they keep Girardi alive? I guess just because Krychek had to like call for help so that there was like a delay between Krychek and Mulder. Because otherwise there's no reason for this man to have lived. That's the only reason. So we're at like this part of the train station is just really in need of a bit of a cleanup. There's just steel beams everywhere and
oh my god, speaking of steel beams and shit, where did Mulder meet X? Was that a sports arena of some kind under construction? Like, what the fuck was that site?
Yeah, I put my location was a stadium under construction? Question mark? I don't know. If you know, listeners, if there's some landmark, where are we, in New York? It's when they were renovating Shea Stadium?
New York.
Where are we?
We're in Vancouver.
Right. So the way that they frame the first shot where Cole is like on the edge of this building is that we see that there's these steel poles below him. Cole, the preacher, whatever we want to call him, I think it's clear that no matter which way this goes, he is done. He has dealt with his whole Arya Stark list, and he is now done. But Mulder gets up there before he jumps, which is, I think, what we're led to believe he's going to do. He's holding his Bible, and he says, "Go ahead, shoot me." Mulder puts his gun down, and Cole explains he's tired. Mulder says, "I know." And Cole is like, "You literally do not know. Okay, you have no fucking idea, Mulder, but thank you."
Yeah, they cut out a piece of my brain. They made me into somebody else. I can never get back what they took away from me. This man.
But I can stop them from taking anything more. I thought that was powerful.
Oof.
Then up comes fucking Krychek with a fucking gun. Mulder tells him to put down the gun. He doesn't. And Cole, I mean, we are led to believe that Cole uses his abilities to make Krychek see a gun instead of a Bible, though a white cop and a black man standing on the edge of a building in this scenario, you might not need any of Cole's powers to make this happen. Either way, Krychek shoots, and Cole dies, and he says good night. And Mulder knows what has happened and still tells Krychek that he did the right thing, I guess, because at that point he doesn't know what else to do, ? But this is a fucked up scene for like a million reasons. I mean, you know, I already talked a little bit about this character and the issues that I have, but to end the whole episode with this man being shot by a fucking cop is upsetting, to say the very least.
What would you say if I told you the next thing that happens is we pan to the Bible while the flutes play one last time?
Oh, I would say, God damn it, 1994.
Have you seen Mulder's envelope? I think it's missing.
You know, it's gone, actually, Jenny. But don't worry, Scully has one.
No, Kristin. Scully's file is... Scully has no file to toss on anyone's desk. Her files have been stolen.
Scully came all the way down to the FBI headquarters just to say, I have no folder to toss down on your desk. Mulder, I'm so sorry. I know that's what you do, but I've got nothing. All of the files have been stolen without the report as evidence. Skinner is not going to authorize an investigation. No one, therefore, will ever learn about what these doctors did to these soldiers. This is upsetting. Mulder, there's a lot of unanswered questions in this episode. And I kind of like it. There's, I think, 3 times in the episode where someone asks a question and then it's just never answered and we go to the next scene. This is one of, I think, the third of those moments. Mulder tells Scully that he met up with this new source. And Scully says, "Do you trust him?" No answer. Cut to the conference room.
Cigarette smoking man and his cronies are at a big long table. They love sitting at big long tables.
It's so long, and they have Krychek all the way at the other end.
Agent Krychek reporting for duty.
Agent Krychek is like, I actually have a smoke allergy, so I'm okay over here.
He's like, Scully's a problem, a much larger problem than you described.
A much more pregnant problem than you described.
I thought you were going to say a much sexier problem than you described.
Also that. Listen, I would say that a sexier problem is a bigger problem than an unsexy problem, just by math, right?
Yeah, for sure. Cigarette smoking man says, every problem has a solution. And then he puts out his little cigarette. Tap, tap, tap.
And then the episode ends. And I would love for you to usher me into Kristin's crystal ball, where I have no predictions. I just have questions, Jenny.
Let's look deep into that crystal ball and see if it has any answers for you, all your questions.
Kristin's crystal ball, she can see it all. What's coming down the pike, I'm sure she'll get it right.
All right, Kristin, what do you want to ask the crystal ball?
Well, it's just like every problem. Okay, dear crystal ball, when someone says every problem has a solution, that means we will kill her. So,
especially if he puts out his little cigarette.
All right. So my question is, crystal ball, it is season 2, episode 4. You can't possibly have me believe that these folks will be trying to kill Mulder and Scully for the next 462 seasons. So what will happen between every problem has a solution and Mulder and Scully living for many, many, many more years, staying as sexy as ever?
Maybe they will actually be murdered by the government repeatedly and then reanimated by the government.
Or
Ever
maybe
heard of toss this file onto your desk? The reanimated X-Files, Kristin?
Or maybe season 3 and forward in the X-Files, they're just ghosts the whole time.
I'm not ruling it out.
Okay. I love this new crystal ball segment where we just ask together and find out together. It's great.
Yeah, we'd love to know.
Jenny, I don't have a lot of other predictions for my crystal ball, but I did want to use this opportunity to share one of the many emails that we've gotten from the last few episodes in season 2. You talked about Encyclopedia Brown an episode or 2 ago.
Yes.
Dana wrote in to say, I felt the need to share with Jenny that I, too, have one specific case-solving detail from an Encyclopedia Brown story that continues to live rent-free in my head. That is, it's difficult / almost impossible to put something in your pant pocket while moving, fleeing a crime scene, with your opposite hand. For example, putting something that was in your right hand into your left pocket while fleeing.
Oh.
Dana says, whenever one of my hands is full and I need to reach across my body to take my keys out of the other pocket, I still think about this Encyclopedia Brown case 20 plus years later.
Wow, now I'm going to think about it all the time.
Yeah, so I just
Thanks, Dana.
My crystal ball might be amethyst, but the encyclopedia is brown.
Wow, so true.
Well, we've done things in the reverse order, and some might say
Which
that's
I like.
sexy. Oh.
Oh my God, that doesn't sound like any of my business, and neither do these.
Sexual attention award.
Okay, admittedly, sexual tension is probably not at the fore of our minds at this exact moment in our existences, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're doing our best over here to seek out the light in the darkness. And as such, we've prepared we've managed to scrape together 3 slots full of noms for your consideration. Here they are. In slot number 1, he's really doing a sort of like honeypot kind of thing, I feel like. He is like, oops, I want to believe.
Oops, the truth is out there, or is it in my pants?
Oh my God.
It's a nighttime taping. Kristin's had a beer. Look out.
Yeah, you have. He's trying to slide into Mulder's file cabinet. It's Krychek and Mulder. It's Alex Krychek and Fox Mulder.
2 X's. We just need one more X to get these things started, you know?
Oh my God. In slot number 2, they're flirting pretty hardcore. He's gonna sharpen his pencils, and that just like is a lot. It's Scully and Mulder. It's the mothership. Look at them go.
God, they really earned it.
And in slot number 3, these 2 just can't keep their grubby little mitts off of each other in this episode. It's dreams and the waking world. Ooh la la.
Oh, just picture 2 of my fingers put together kissing, and they are dreams and the waking world in the episode.
I'm picturing
Sleepless.
Yeah, wow. Feels good to be back in the STAs with you, Kristin. Beautiful listeners, if you want to vote in this absolutely ludicrous poll, please visit bufferandcast.com/STA. That will redirect you to the current STA poll. Make your voice heard. Your vote matters, of course. Come on down. Just think about sharpening pencils, and then sharpen the pencils, and then fill out your little ballot, and then okay.
Sexual attention award.
Kristin.
Jenny.
I got one last question for you. Who's the smuggest bitch in this episode?
I forgot to think about it. I guess fucking Alex Krychek. Who's a smugger bitch than that?
I thought Cigarette Smoking Man was slightly smugger.
Well, a cigarette smoking man is murderous and horrible, but I don't know if he's smug.
Every problem has a solution.
Yeah. All right. Okay. I don't know. I don't know if I'm willing to concede this time. We might have to take it to a vote.
Oh, another vote?
Yeah, we can vote as much as we fucking want. It's our podcast.
Where do they go? How can they vote?
Just
just scream into your iPhone microphone as loud as you can.
Wait, actually, I have an idea. Instead of voting, we'll let LaToya be the tiebreaker vote.
Yes.
And so we'll let LaToya know her job has now increased. She also has to break the tie. We won't tell her who picked whom.
Good.
We'll just say who is the smugger bitch, and whoever she picks will be the smuggest bitch of the episode. We'll let you know next episode. You know what I mean?
I can't wait to find out.
Or we'll forget we ever said this.
Also entirely possible. Well, quick before we forget, I'm Jenny Owen Youngs, and when I'm not watching the X-Files or Buffy, I'm usually making music. Gosh, I'm playing some New England shows this May. I'm going to be playing in Portland, Maine, in Northampton, Massachusetts, in Boston, Massachusetts, and also in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. So I hope that you will consider coming to hang out with me. You can get tickets and find out information about these shows, and also just general info about me over at jennyowenyoungs.com. You can also find me on socials at Jenny Owen Youngs. And I'll tell you what else, Kristin. Since becoming a parent, I haven't been doing a ton of Twitch streams, but I am doing one on April 11th.
Well, that's tomorrow.
So if you're, bored, twitch.tv/Jenny Owen Youngs, I'll be on at 8 p.m. Eastern. Come hang out with me for a little bit.
I can't wait to see you there. I can't believe we're not doing something that requires you to work with me at that time,
I found the one slot we weren't doing something.
So I'm Kristin. Russo, for those of you who need
You
to know
sure
my last
are.
name. And I do, apart from talking about the X-Files and Buffy and all that kind of stuff, I also work with LGBTQ communities, and I also do some fun stuff in a really queer way, the way I do everything. I have a little queer book club, and I have a queer horror movie watch club. And Jenny, I won't be able to make your show in Portland, Maine on May 4th, Jenny, because I have a queer horror movie watch, and we have been watching a lot of like early aughts horror movies this year, but we're watching a movie from I think the 1950s, and it's called Cat People. So I think it might be the gayest watch of all. I mean, TBD, but you can learn all about. Are you Googling Cat People?
Yeah.
What is it? Is it like 1952 or something?
There's a 1942 and a
42.
1982.
So 42 is the one we're watching.
Ooh, I think I've seen part of the 82 one.
Nice.
On TV.
Well, we'll be watching all of it and reporting back. And you can join me there or learn about the work that I do at KristinNoeline.com. That's KristinNoeline. Use that spelling to find me on social media, where I've been really quiet lately, but one day I'll say something.
If there's one thing I know about you, Kristin, that I feel very confident about, is that one day you'll say something. Buffering a Rewatch Adventure is on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at BufferingCast. You could drop us an email at hello@bufferingcast.com. And you could write to the Crystal Ball at crystalball@bufferingcast.com.
You can support the work that we do here on Patreon, patreon.com/bufferingcast. All of this information on our website. We have so much going on. We are in the midst of floppy hoppy spring, where we are watching lots of episodes about Anya, Christina, Emanuela Jenkins.
You've heard of her.
Doing a special episode all about our feelings on Anya. There's tons of other stuff that happens in the Patreon space, and we would love to see you there.
This episode was produced by Kristin Russo, Jenny Owen Youngs, and LaToya Ferguson, with support from our consultant, Mackenzie McDade. It was edited by John Mark Nelson. And Kristin? I would say the status of this X-File is definitely noticing the pugilistic attitude of the corpse.
Talmor is my home. My family have worked the land for generations. My gran says the island does not belong to us, but we belong to the island. And we must be ready, for a great evil is coming, and death follows with it.
Listen and subscribe to the latest season of Undertow, The Harrowing, a Storyglass production presented by Realm, available wherever you get your podcasts.
Do you know what lies within nothing?
No.
Do you know where it ends? Do you want to know?
Yes.
Counterbalance, a high fantasy audio drama. Season 2, coming 15th of October 2023. Learn more on trilunas.com.